I need you to hate so I can use you for your energy.
This is real sales talk. Real sales advice from real sales practitioners. Giving you tips on how to dominate your sales quota are your co-hosts, Sean Mitchell and Phill Keen.
We don't have a process for referrals at most companies. I go into a company, I say, what's your referral process? They have no, well, what do you mean?
I think that goes back to the premise that why do salespeople suck at prospecting? I mean, number one reason why they suck at prospecting is they don't actually do it.
If you are successful and nobody knows, in 2016, 20, 2025, you're not successful.
You want to find out what's going on in the company? Get in the car and spend a day with the top 3 salespeople. You'll find out in 5 minutes.
Because you can't be a trusted advisor without 2 things, trust and advice. I mean, you need both of them.
We've got a really cool guest today, Vincenzo from Prospect.io. Vincenzo, how are you today or this evening?
Hi, I'm very fine. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very glad to have you on. We are rocking and rolling with season 4, episode 6, and this is going to be a good one, all about prospecting and how to generate leads and business efficiently. It's going to be centered around the product Prospect.io, which Vincenzo is the CEO of, and we're going to dive into some of the challenges that salespeople face and some of the ways to kind of overcome that, leveraging their tool Prospect.io. So what I would love to know, what we can start off with, Vincenzo, is talk to me a little bit about how Prospect.io came to be. Is there an interesting story behind that?
Yeah, of course. There is a story behind that. I'm working on web and startups for almost 10 years already, and every time I created something, the first step was always the same. The first step was to outreach people and to start, showing what you did and say, hey, look at that. Maybe it can be interesting for you. So at the beginning, I'm absolutely not a sales guy. Of course, I'm an entrepreneur, but not the real sales guy. I'm a developer actually. I'm more a geek. And the last product I created just before Prospect.io was a tool basically targeting people using Stripe. So the first step I had to do was to prospect, start sales prospecting people using Stripe. And when I started to do that, I was using my Gmail to send emails, and then I was using Google spreadsheet to track everything. Then I was using Google Analytics to check if the people were visiting the website, and so on. So I put in a lot of existing tools. Then of course I had a CRM. I was using Close.io at that time. And I was using all this tool, and I was doing a lot of manual job and a lot of copy paste and everything. And I started to think that's not possible. There should be something better to do that job. I didn't even know that it should be called sales prospecting. Even if it's a bit strange. It was more than 1 year ago already. And so I just started to work on an extension, a Google Chrome extension, to get the email, because that was the first very manual thing I was doing to start prospecting. It was to find the email on the website. So I started with that. And then now a little bit more than 1 year later, we have 600 customers. We are a team of 6 people, and things are going very, very well for us. We are very happy with the company. Yeah.
So interesting, because I recently did a speaking engagement for enterprise sales meetup around SDRs. And it was around hiring teams, and it got into a lot of people that are kind of in the stage that you're at right now. So they're a year old. I'm a founder without a sales background. really what's some things that I guess you've learned over the last 12 months about prospecting? Because that was the question: is how do I get started? What's the first thing I do? Like, what do I do with my hands? In a certain sense, it was that, and then from there it was, what do I look for in my first hire? Because that was the dialogue, but it was really that. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know where to start. I don't know what my head's spinning right now. What's the first tactic? What's the thing you want to go tell everybody to go do?
If you want to do what exactly? Start a business in sales?
Prospecting. So you're trying to go get customers. You found 600 customers in 12 months.
Yeah.
How are you so successful?
Yeah, that's a question a lot of people ask. Actually, there is no silver bullet to do that. Really, if you look at the chart, there is nothing that you don't have a big spike, big bump just one day just because we did something. It's really about a day-to-day job, and there is something for this whole year. It's just creating a good product. I know it can seem a little bit simple as an answer, but it's really the thing. We are solving a problem by making a great product, and really, by just doing that, and of course we did a lot of little tricks. You call that growth hacking today. Things that don't scale, like just sending a lot of email to everybody, posting on Product Hunt, posting on beta list at the very beginning, asking for review on the Chrome store. We did, we at the beginning you're a bit desperate, so you do everything you can. And if the product is good and if the product is really solving a problem, then you will have people ready to pay. Of course, then the real thing begin. You have to ship features, you have to fix bugs, you have to hire support people, you have the real job begin at that point. But yeah, before that, just creating a good product that solves a real problem for people, and that's already half of the job.
That's really insightful, Vincenzo. One question I have for you, though, I think the story behind Prospect.io is really interesting, and I think it's really fascinating that the phrasing of prospecting, like the definition of prospect, you probably didn't know what the word was, so you probably discovered a lot of these things on your own, not having a sales background originally. So, what was that moment where you realized or understood that you actually had a really cool tool for salespeople?
Because salespeople said it, for example, I did, sales prospecting. I knew that thing. I didn't really practice it a lot, but I knew it. But for example, I really discovered a term at the very beginning, sales development representative, SDR. Really for me it was something completely new. So when these SDR were starting to use the product and saying, "Hey, we love it," and comparing our product to other existing product in the same market, of course, I looked at what other people were doing, other products, other companies, and yeah, we basically discovered our market. That's really what we did. We discovered the market slowly by listening to the people that were using the product. So for example, we are in the sales prospecting. We are targeting SDR, people that do the sales prospecting and outreach and everything. But for example, we don't really target large enterprise. A lot of our competitors are targeting large enterprise because I think funders and funding teams are salespeople, so they are more likely to go to enterprise. For us, we have more startups company, that kind of startups, that kind of companies. but they have the same needs. They have less money maybe to spend and less possibilities in terms of HR and everything, but they have the same needs. They need to contact potential customer, prospect, and to say, okay, we are doing that, and maybe it can be interesting for you. They need to qualify prospect to turn them into lead and then turn them into deals. They have the same exact problem, but that's interesting for us because we are really speaking with a startup people instead of really enterprise people.
I think it's interesting because I think that's really one of the more important parts of prospecting that never really comes in the conversation about prospecting is understanding who your companies that you're going after, who your target market is. Is that something you originally set out as? Is I want to build a tool for startups and small business companies, or was it kind of something you discovered over the first few months of where you were gaining traction, how you were having conversations? What was the realization? Where'd that show up?
Yeah, the very first thing was to create a tool to solve my own problem. I'm not the first one to say that this is the best way to create something, solve the problem you have. So yeah, the very beginning of the story is that, just creating something to solve my problem, to be more productive in doing the job I had to do. Because also, I think sales prospecting is really boring. I don't want to offend people doing that job, but really, it's a very repetitive job. You just do the same thing again and again. And the interesting part of the job is to speak with the potential customer, the prospect. That's where you really, you're already putting a lot of value. But collecting email address, sending emails, sending follow-up, all these things are kind of low value, if you ask me. It was the case for me, actually. So. The very beginning was to solve my problem because it was boring for me. Yeah.
How talk about what your customers were doing before they started using Prospect.io. How are they doing this manually? What were they typically doing before they started using Prospect.io to make things more efficient and easy for them? Were they using, like you talked about, were they recording things manually? How did they find people's email addresses before they started using your product?
Yeah, some were using our competitor. That's a good thing. So we have customers coming from competitors and using our tool because for some features we are better or we are maybe a bit less expensive. So so we have now a base of customers that were already doing sales prospecting and sales automation with other tools, and for the customers that were not using anything before, they were doing that manually, like I was doing. So of course, the finding email address is only one part of our tool. It's only the very beginning of the funnel, the sales, the prospecting funnel. Of course, you need an email address to start working, but that's not the only part of the job. Then when you have the email, you have a lot of things to do. So we have customers that also come with their own email address. Maybe they collected the email on their website, on a trade show, whatever. So we help them to find email address if they need to find email address, but we also help them, to automate all the outreach and the prospecting, if they already have the email. So yeah, but basically without our tool and without using anything else, you have to do the job manually. You have to send emails with your email client, and then to keep track of everything, to sync everything with your CRM. And yeah,
it sounds like there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of tools that people are using before they discover you, and when they start using your product, it sounds like you really kind of combine a lot of things that people are kind of using here and there, and you just make it easy to do and probably much more efficient.
Yeah, exactly. You just define my problem at the beginning using a lot of different tools, and then the solution, creating Prospect.io to to merge all these things into only one solution where with everything centralized, visible. You have an history of everything that happened with the prospect. For example, if you contacted the prospect 6 months ago, using Gmail with a CRM, it can be a bit hard, to get these two information together and not to contact the same prospect again, or to don't have a personal approach because you already contacted the guy before, and maybe because you already had a discussion with the guy. So it's a bit hard, it's a bit hard if you don't use something to centralize everything. CRMs are trying to centralize information, but they are still used next to an email client, so and they really try to do that. Salesforce, for example, they have a drip campaigns feature inside Salesforce, but this is not the core business. This everything is not done around that. And of course, yeah, the discovering of email is also something you can use from the very beginning of the job. So yeah, we are a complete solution. Yeah.
You talk about I think in the video that I watched on your website, you talk about some secret magic on how to find email addresses. Without revealing all of that magic, can you give some insight into why it would be better to use Prospect.io to find those email addresses versus searching the web or whatever other method that people are using?
So the very first reason is that it would be easier to do with Prospect.io. So of course you can still search the web to find email. Actually, that's what we do. That's what we automate on the background. So there is no real secret, about how we do what we do. There are secrets on how we are efficient doing it, but what we do is not a secret. So we basically crawl the web to find publicly available addresses online. So let's say you add a comment somewhere on the blog or whatever, and then you leave your email address there. Then your email address is publicly available, and the email will come in our database. Our caller will get your email, and then so that's one way to do it. Then we also created a database of patterns, company patterns. So for example, at Prospect.io, the pattern is first name at Prospect.io. So we know the pattern. We have the pattern. So if you ask, okay, what is the email address of Andy Clappinine working at Prospect.io? We don't have the email address in our database because maybe the address is not available publicly online, but we have the pattern, so we can guess the email. So that's the reason why we give you the email address with the confidence score. So for example, if we have a domain name with 200 email address and they are all in the same pattern, we are pretty confident about the fact that the email you're asking would be the same pattern. So yeah, that's the idea basically. And of course, after that, we do some verification. We automate the verification of email addresses. We use other sources like Whois. There are a lot of possibilities to guess email address online. Yeah.
I mean, the biggest benefit, it sounds like, if you're a real Sales Talk listener here, is it sounds like you're just saving SDRs and sales reps a lot of time. So if you're wanting to target a specific company and you're using Prospect.io, they're going to save you time because you're not having to go and search multiple pages and read through multiple articles and things like that. You can just go to one source and put in the company, right, Vincenzo? If you know of a company that you want to target, it's going to give you a list of various contacts within that company.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, if you want to get email address from IBM.com, on IBM.com you will get 2,000 email address from people working at IBM. For example, that's an example. Of course, then you always have to find the right people at IBM. With 2,000 people, you will not send 2,000 emails to everybody. So we created the extension that works on LinkedIn. So it's based on LinkedIn, and the extension allow you to specifically search for one person email address. We also have an API. So if you have on your side, if you have people you want to target, but you don't have the email, you can automate that with our API. And we also offer it through the import, a CSV import. So if you have, an Excel sheet, or you just import it, and we will find all the email address for you. And so just to answer your question, you're right. This part is really about saving time, and also just finding the email. Sometimes even if you have a lot of time, you will not find the email address anywhere because it's too hard. Our guessing system, with all the things, the patterns and everything. Of course, it's not 100% right all time, but it's still better than nothing.
And you'd mentioned you give this like assurance percentage. How sure you are that's the accurate email address or contact information?
Score. We call that the confidence score. Yeah.
Confidence score. Okay.
It's a percentage, from 0 to 100.
Great. All right. So let's kind of move on from that section, because let's say you've got a sales team, an SDR team who's using ZoomInfo, for example, which is pretty good at getting contact information. But what ZoomInfo kind of stops at is giving you that information, and they don't. You can't. From that point, you have to export a spreadsheet and then put it into another system. So once an SDR or sales rep finds maybe a group or some core people that they want to start reaching out to, what happens then? Because I think that there's a next step that Prospect IO can then kind of take in helping the salesperson reach out to those people or person.
Yeah, so that's what we call outreach. It's really about getting a contact with the prospect. So if we just take your example with another tool that helps you to find contact information, you can use also things like Clearbit, for example. Datanyze, all these tools that do the lead generation, the search for lead. Integration. So it makes really things very simple. You basically you can connect Clearbit with Prospect.io, and every time you discover a lead or on Clearbit, you just send it to Prospect.io into a campaign. So that's what we call our system that sends the email, and the person will start receiving a predefined sequence of emails. That's what we call drip campaigns. So it can be only one email if you just want to send one email, but it can be 5, 6 email with follow-ups and everything. Yeah.
So I'm curious to see from your perspective on drip campaigns. Obviously, you have lots of customers, and you've done it yourself. What's some best practices around email cadence, types of emails you're sending, words you're using, subject lines? What's some best practices you have around email?
Yeah, so that's also a question we have a lot because we have a lot of data, of course, about what is working and what is not working. There is something we really don't want to do is to go too deeply in this data, because we want to respect our customer's job, and also again, there is no silver bullets to do it right. It's always about adapting on your business, your target, your ICP. So there is no one single advice we can give you. Of course, there are general advice like don't spam people. It's a bit obvious, but so really, if you don't want to spam people, there is really something important about spam, because at some point Prospect.io can be used to spam people, but we have our definition of spam. A spam is when your email is marked as spam. It's a bit stupid, but you can send email to people that didn't ask to get an email and not being marked as spam. But you can send email to people that did a double opt-in and you will be marked as spam, So that's really important. Being a spammer, it's about people that will mark you as a spammer. So it really depends on what you send, not really why you are sending the email. So the advice we give is really only contact people that are your target and people that are interesting in what you have to sell. If you just send email to everybody, you will not get a lot of success with Prospect.io, and you will be marked as a spammer. So that's really the main advice we are giving to our customers. It's not thinking that Prospect.io is something magical. It's something that you just press a button and let's go. The sales will throw. So it's really the best advice we can give to our customers. It's not because you use Prospect.io that you don't have to do the job of writing a clear value proposition, finding the right people for what you are selling.
Yeah. And anytime, I guess, you get a tool like yours or any of your competitors, I think you have to remember there still has to be a human element behind the machine that's still pressing the buttons. It just makes you a lot more efficient.
Yeah. And, technically also, you are sending the email from your personal account. So if you want to send emails from Prospect.io, the first thing you have to do is to connect a Google Apps or a Gmail account. And what we do is that we just automate the sending with your Google account. So it's really like if you were writing the email one by one and pushing the send button. You are responsible of your reputation, your deliverability. Of course, we help you with that. We give you a lot of practical information how to improve it. But it's really about automating a job you would have done manually. So you can focus on something else, like speaking with the prospect, for example. But it's not about spamming millions of people. We have hard limits, for example. So you cannot send more than 250 emails per day with the platform per account, per sending address. So you still have to do it humanly. Yeah, right.
And I want to add to that, since I've had some experience working for an email marketing company. I think the more you narrow in on your audience, the better it is, and the less likely someone is to perceive your communication as spam, right? The more tailored your message is to their current situation, their company, maybe basing that on some news article that you've read about that company, the more likely that is to be received, to be welcomed, really. And I'm going to do this on the fly here, but I want to give a shout out to someone who cold emailed me yesterday. Hopefully I still have the email accessible. I'm going to do a search really quick, and I just want to give an example here of what that looks like. So Ryan from ZoomInfo reached out to me yesterday, and he said, I came across Real Sales Talk, which led me to find your LinkedIn page. I noticed that you recently became the director of sales at Real Space, and I wanted to reach out and say congrats. The other reason is, and he does a little minor ask of a 10 or 15 minute phone call, but I responded to that email almost immediately when I saw it, and I did not mark it as spam because he actually did the work to personalize it. I could tell that he took the time to do a little bit of research. Now, I probably would have answered someone who maybe didn't add as personal of a message. But if I can tell that someone did a little bit of investigation, I typically give someone a response. So how do you not, because being marked as spam is very subjective to the recipient. How do you avoid getting marked as spam? It's just narrowing your focus, providing something in that email that's relevant and timely and makes sense for the person on the other end. So I just wanted to jump in there because I think that there's that's a common problem with salespeople. And I've done it myself, sent a broad email out with a broad message to a broad number of people. And it's just a really great way to annoy people and get marked as spam.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a real problem, actually. It's a trade-off, the more personal you will be, the better the result will be. But of course, the less emails you will be able to send. So it's really about finding the right quantity of personalization. Yeah, you're right. For example, we have lists. We have really different lists. So you can put prospects into lists, and then you can use template variables to really personalize the emails you are sending. So you have that automation, because at the end the volume is also important in the sales job, but you can still keep the personal thing. So of course it's really a trade-off. Our tool allows you to send millions of email, exactly the same email, and our tool is also designed to allow you to send email one by one more efficiently. So it's a trade-off. So I don't have only one answer, but you're right with one thing. You have to send things that make sense. I think it's really the most important thing. You have to outreach people that are, it can seem a bit stupid, but that are your target, that might be interested in what you are selling. If you are, I don't know, if you are trying to sell hamburgers to veggie, it's stupid. You will be marked as spam even if your burgers are great. So you're right. You're exactly right. And we really try in everything we do to keep that in mind. So we don't a spam machine, basically.
Yes, absolutely. And the tailoring and the relevancy could be a particular role at a company. You could be reaching out to 250 VPs of sales or CEOs. The tailoring could be a specific industry, vertical. There's lots of ways that you can narrow down your search and still send out a more than just one email at a time. So I think that's, as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, Vincenzo, you have to do what makes sense for the business. And in some cases, you may want to send a personal email to an individual. In other cases, you may want to, if you're starting at maybe a higher level of the funnel, you might send a more broad, more general but tailored email out to a specific job title or vertical or industry in order to get responses and kind of move them down that marketing funnel.
Yeah, there is a great story. So I know the story in French. That's my mother language, French. So, but maybe I can take 1 minute to try to give you that story in English. I think it's really everything about sales. So I'm not a sales guy. I'm a developer. I'm a geek. But what I really learned is that story. That story is everything. There were students in a university having a sales course with a sales professor, and it was the very beginning of their studies. And the professor asked, okay, what is, it was a commercial school, and the professor asked, okay, can you give me some adjective about salespeople? Just throw some adjective. And the students started with, liar, things like liar, pushing people, bullshit people, all these pretty negative adjectives. And then the professor said, okay, and all the students that the parents are doing a sales job, can you please raise your hand? And of course, you know, in a sales, in a commercial school, pretty much half of the students raise their hands and say, yeah, my parents are doing sales. Okay, and all of you, would you describe your parents with terms like liar, bullshit, and everything? And pretty much all the students said, no, you know, my mother is not like that. You know, she's not a liar. She's not trying to sell bullshit. She is a good sales. Okay, what do you mean by good sales? You know, she's really trying to find solution for the people she's in contact with. And you know, pretty much all the students said the same thing. My parent is not a bullshit guy. My parent is a good sales. And actually, that is the thing. A lot of people see the salespeople as you know, very rough people. You know, kind of the Wolf of Wall Street. You know, you know, this is a stupid picture of the salespeople. Salespeople, if they want to do a great job, then they just have to answer problem. They just have to solve problem, to be problem solver, to come with solutions for their customers. If you want to come with solutions, you need to understand what are the problems of the people you are contacting, you are speaking with. And I think this is everything about sales. If you really do that with empathy, if you really do that with really thinking about the people in front of you, the people that will receive your email, and if you do it by keeping in mind that you need to provide that person something valuable, then you will be right. You will never be marked as spam. You know, I will never mark you as spam if you come with me with a solution to one of my problems. You know. You will be my Messi. You will be someone that is doing something good for me. So I think that's a good way to resume everything, to sum up everything.
Yeah, it's a great story. So I've got one more question specifically about the product, because I'm just really curious. What happens if someone responds to that message? Does Prospect.io know? And then what does the software do from that point? Once someone responds or engages with that communication?
Yeah, so we have a reply tracking system. So actually, technically, it's really hard to do. Just, you know, for the information, tracking replies is very a difficult job. We didn't really know when we started to do it. But yeah, it's hard because, you know, you have bounce, you have soft bounces, you have hard bounces, you have auto reply, you have out of office, you have. It's really hard to do, but still, we have a system that track all the replies, and of course, you can act on that. So you can configure the system to do something when a reply happens. By default, if you are in a drip campaign, so if you are sending automatic email to the prospect, and if the prospect replies, then the effect will be to stop the campaign. So that's the default behavior. You know, basically, that is what most of our customers want. You know, they want to stop the campaign and start to really speak about something with the prospect, to really start a real conversation. So we stop the campaign, but you can also trigger a lot of things when we catch a reply. You can trigger integrations. So you can say, okay, every time a prospect reply, I want that prospect to go into my CRM, and as a lead, for example, let's say you are using a Pipedrive, I want to create a deal in my Pipedrive in that specific stage, in that specific pipeline. And then, you know, that will be the job of an account executive or something, you know, just after the SDR, to take the lead and to move the lead in the sales funnel. So that's it. So we have that reply tracking, but of course you can do that thing with reply. You can do it with open. So we also track opens. You can do it with clicks. So we also track clicks. You can do it with conversion. So if you set up a conversion tracking on your website somewhere, we can track conversion for you. Let's say you want people to sign up to your product, then you can track that. So yeah, awesome. That's it. Yeah.
Vincenzo, amazing. Thank you for joining us today. So I want to get in touch with Prospect.io. I'm listening to Real Sales Talk. Give me your 30-second elevator pitch, and then tell me how to get in touch with you.
Okay, so basically, if you are doing sales prospecting, and if you are not using a tool like Prospect.io, then you are not doing it right. So let's go on Prospect.io. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can test all the features, everything in the product. We have an amazing team at the support and the sales, so people will welcome you, will onboard you, and we will really help you to set up everything for free without any engagement on your side, because you have that money-back guarantee. So there is no reason not to try it. Yeah. So Prospect.io, and if people want to speak with me, all my information are on the website.
Awesome. Vincenzo, thank you again for being on the show. It was a pleasure. Everybody out there listening, make sure you get in touch. If you don't have a tool like Prospect.io or you're looking for something currently, check it out. The website's Prospect.io. Real Sales Talkers, it's been a good one. Looking forward to our new Tech Talk coming up. A lot of great shows, a lot of great guests coming up here in January. So keep listening. Thank you again for being listeners for us. And as always, talk to you soon.
See ya.